Welcome to this explainer on plant transport mechanics. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this fascinating subject today. We're going to treat our screen right now like a giant interactive whiteboard. We'll be mapping out exactly how plants handle extreme water stress and manage to pull off some literally gravity-defying feats. So, we're tracing a single drop of water, starting from the macro level of a whole plant, all the way down to the microscopic cellular mechanics that make it all happen. All right, let's dive right in.
Okay, so here is our game plan. We'll start with wilting as a survival strategy, then break down the vascular system and trace the journey from the soil straight to the root. After that, we'll hit transpiration and upward flow and wrap it all up with a quick recap of common exam mistakes.
First up, Section 1, Wilting, a survival strategy. We're looking at the actual biological mechanism behind those sad, drooping leaves.
So did you know that when a plant wilts, it isn't actually dying? It's really executing a highly calculated survival strategy. Just take a look at this macro to micro split view we've got here. On the left side, the macro view, you see a plant going through extreme water stress. Its leaves are visibly drooping, right? But now look over on the right at the microscopic level. See those tiny little structures closing up? Those are the stomata. By actively drooping and closing up those microscopic pores, the plant is drastically cutting down the surface area it exposes to the sun. It's a brilliant move because it significantly reduces any further water loss. Now, the trade-off here is that it also limits photosynthesis, but hey, it keeps the plant alive during a severe drought.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the vascular system explained. Think of this as the plant's very own circulatory system.
Let's zoom directly into the internal stem to map out this dual transport system. Okay, look at the left column here. The xylem. Its main job is transporting water and mineral salts. But crucially, follow that bold upward-pointing arrow. This flow goes strictly upward from the roots. No exceptions. Now contrast that with the right column, the phloem. You can see by the label that it distributes food, specifically sugars and amino acids. And those multi-directional arrows, they show that this distribution happens throughout the entire plant, not just up. If you can lock in this clear division of labor right now, you'll dodge one of the most common exam mistakes right out of the gate.
Now, here's something I find truly mind-blowing about the xylem's physical structure. If you look closely at that magnified insert, the xylem actually consists of long, hollow tubes formed entirely from dead cells. Yeah, literally dead cells. Notice how the structural boundaries show zero living internal components, just empty space. This completely hollow structure forms an uninterrupted physical pipe. And that is the exact mechanical feature that allows water to flow smoothly upwards, completely defying gravity.
Let's jump to Section 3, Journey from Soil to Root. We're going to see exactly where and how water first enters the plant system.
Okay, so we're starting a chronological flowchart to track this water droplet's journey. We've mapped out 4 main steps here: soil osmosis, root pressure, capillary action, and transpiration pull. But notice how those last 3 steps are visually dimmed out right now? That's because we're anchoring your focus entirely on step 1, soil osmosis. This right here is the exact microscopic starting line where water moves from the outside world directly into the plant.
And this visual does a fantastic job of showing exactly how that first step actually works. By definition, osmosis is when water moves into root hair cells driven by a water potential gradient. Just follow those visual vectors. See those dynamic, thick blue arrows starting out in the soil? That represents an area of higher water potential. Now watch how they point directly into the root cells, where the color shifts to a much lighter blue, which indicates a lower water potential. So this physical difference in potential is literally the invisible force that pulls the water across the boundary and right into those root hair cells.
Next up, Section 4, Transpiration and Upward Flow. We've made it into the roots, but now we've got to defy gravity.
So once the water is actually inside the xylem, how on earth does it get all the way up to the topmost leaves?
Well, we basically have 3 upward forces at play here, which we've graphed out on this bar chart. And I really want you to look at the scale of these bars. That first bar on the left for capillary action, pretty small. The second bar for root pressure, also quite small. But then look at that third bar on the right, transpiration pull. It is massively taller than the other 2 combined. So the big takeaway here is that while capillary action and root pressure definitely help out, transpiration pull is visually and functionally the absolute dominant force driving that water upward against gravity. Let's explicitly define what's causing that massive spike. Transpiration is the process where water evaporates directly from the leaf surfaces. Look at the water vapor physically exiting the leaf there. This evaporation is absolutely crucial. Not only does it cool the plant down, but it creates negative pressure. See that giant upward-pointing vector inside the stem? That represents the suction, the negative pressure, that's literally pulling the water up through those hollow, dead xylem tubes we talked about earlier. It creates this continuous, unbroken chain of water pulled right from the very top. It's kind of like sipping liquid through a giant straw.
But, of course, this entire system relies on a very delicate balance. Here we're comparing two different scenarios using a visual scale. On the left side, high water absorption perfectly matches normal transpiration. The scale is balanced, everything is functioning great. But on the right side, we see the scale tip completely. Water loss is drastically exceeding water absorption. And when the scale tips, that whole negative pressure system fails. And what happens next? Well, we loop right back to our very first hook. The plant wilts. It intentionally droops to put a cap on that massive water loss just to survive the imbalance.
Finally, Section 5, Common Mistakes and Recap. Let's pull all these mechanisms together so you can absolutely ace your biology exams.
If you take away anything from this explainer today, please let it be this punchy little cheat sheet. Grab a screenshot if you need to. Let's quickly recap our core labels. Xylem equals water moving up. Phloem equals food moving around. Please, whatever you do, never mix those two up. Also, think back to our bar chart. Transpiration pull is the dominant upward force. And remember that split screen view. Wilting is not plant death. It's a calculated, temporary survival tactic to deal with water stress. And here is your ultimate exam tip, highlighted right there at the bottom. Practice drawing and labeling these diagrams. Just like the clear call-out cards and arrows we used today, your ability to clearly and accurately map out processes like osmosis and transpiration on paper is exactly what's going to earn you those top marks. Honestly, clarity is everything.
We've just traced a pretty spectacular journey today, from the macrostructure of a drooping leaf all the way down to the microscopic pull of water potential gradients. And honestly, it kind of makes you wonder, if a plant actively chooses to wilt just to survive an incredibly stressful environment, what other microscopic mechanisms is it hiding right in plain sight? Keep observing, keep questioning the systems around you, and as always, keep learning. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.